Hello, my name is Katia Palma and today I will be doing a comparison between Honduras and El Salvador. First, we are going to see some important things about population. Honduras has a population of approximately 9.5 million people instead of El Salvador that just has 6.5. El Salvador has a higher rate of urbanization compared to Honduras. Both countries have relatively young population, with a large portion under the age of 30, as you can see in this comparison. Now we are going to see and talk about area. Honduras has a significantly large land area, which allows for greater geographical diversity, more natural resources, and larger agricultural land. El Salvador, despite its smaller size, has fertile volcanic soils, a high population density, and significant agricultural activity, especially coffee and sugar. Both countries face natural disaster risks, but differ in the nature of those risks. Honduras is more affected by hurricanes, while El Salvador faces volcanic and seismic threats. Talking about GDP, El Salvador has a slightly higher GDP and GDP per capita than Honduras, reflecting a somewhat stronger overall economy. Honduras has a higher growth rate, while El Salvador has slightly better price stability and inflation control. Both countries rely heavily on remittances, but El Salvador is more dependent on them for its economic stability. El Salvador has a more diversified economy, particularly in the services and manufacturing sectors, while Honduras remains more reliant on agriculture, for example, coffee and bananas. El Salvador is facing greater public debt challenges, while Honduras is in a relatively more stable fiscal position. El Salvador's adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender sets it apart in the country. What about life expectancy? Both countries have similar life expectancy figures, with Honduras slightly ahead at 74.2 years compared to El Salvador's 70 years. Key factors influencing life expectancy in both countries include healthcare system, chronic diseases, violence, nutrition, education, and access to clean water. El Salvador tends to have a slightly better healthcare infrastructure, public health education, and access to sanitation, which likely contribute to its marginally higher life expectancy. Both countries face challenges with violence and public safety, which negatively affect the overall health of the population. Natural disasters such as hurricanes in Honduras and earthquakes in El Salvador pose additional risks to public health and life in both countries. We are almost done. Literacy rate. El Salvador has a higher literacy rate compared to Honduras. Gender gaps in literacy rates exist in both countries, but the gap is smaller in El Salvador compared to Honduras. El Salvador has better access to education and better quality of education, contributing to its higher literacy rate. Both countries face challenges in rural education and poverty, but El Salvador has historically invested more in education reform, school retention, and teacher training. Honduras has higher dropout rates due to economic pressures, which negatively impact literacy rates. Government initiatives in both countries focus on improving education, but El Salvador's more robust approach has led to better literacy outcomes. Just to conclude, while Honduras and El Salvador share similar histories and challenges, each country has its own unique approach to tackling economic growth, public health, and education. Understanding their similarities and differences allows for a more nuanced perspective of their paths toward progress in the coming years. So, which of both countries do you believe has better life conditions? Have you ever visited El Salvador? Will you change Honduras? Thank you for watching.